Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine.
All right, let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Chad Townsend Show. Today, my guest folded him a few times actually when he ran at me, just quickly before I introduced him.
His nose just grew. Never, ever.
And I am going to refer to some notes just briefly because, as you guys know, I do my research and study. Going to welcome in a 323 game NRL veteran, played for 3 clubs, played 6 Origins, 1 NRL Premiership, 1 World Club Challenge, and 1 NRL Nines. I'm pretty sure he was captain as well. Had an absolute fantastic career. Please make him welcome. Gavin Cooper, mate, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. Look, I'm going to give you a rap here. I've been saying no to lots of people. Heavily sought after talent.
Yeah, mate, I know. You've blocked
and very busy as well. So, look, I'm glad I can get on here and have a chat to you. Put a lot of effort into the name of the podcast too. I like it.
Yeah, I know.
Chad Townsend Show. I like it.
Works, you know. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy to remember, mate. I do appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I just read out some of those stats. You probably don't hear those stats too often these days. How does it make you feel when you sit back?
Yeah, look, as you know, I'm still only just on 2 years retired now. So, like, it gets brought up occasionally, but it's still not something that I've really sat down and thought about a whole lot. It is pretty cool hearing that and then knowing how many people have played in the NRL that have only reached 300 games. So I don't know if it means you're talented or just you hold together well or a little bit of combination. So, look, it is only a small select crew that have played that many games. And, look, that's a really cool stat. But just the premiership, as you know, you've been part of one. That's the big one. And all the success that came along with that ends up becoming individual success and playing Origin. But, yeah, highlight for me is definitely the grand final.
And would you say that, like you said, 300 games, not many, I think might even be like less than 50 in the whole of, the existence of the game. You just mentioned the premiership, but, you would take the premiership over the 300 games?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think you get a ring now for 300 games, is that right?
Yeah. Well, Sam at Affinity Diamonds, if you're watching, please deliver it. Frankie Puller-2 at the NRL. It hasn't turned up yet.
Sam Rami, good fella. Shout out to Sam. He's a great fella.
Legend fella. Yeah, you do. It's very, like I say, it's some people that had played up until Sam got the contract. The guys before that had played 300 games, they don't get the ring. So it's, or they get a ring, but it's not to the equivalent that Sam makes it. So, it is a really cool design. Your premiership ring, really cool design. So it's modeled a little bit on that, but a little bit. As like I said, I think there's only been about 10 that have got the ring since Sam's taken over. So it's it's a pretty cool reward for my longevity in the game.
Bloody oath. Yeah, beauty, mate. All right, let's move on. You're a couple years retired now from the NRL. I guess, most people, probably wouldn't see you out and about now, I guess. So what do you do with yourself these days? Retired, got your fingers in a few pies, I understand. But, yeah, mate, what do you do?
Couple of pies, couple of poke bowls. Leading into my retirement, we sort of were looking at what we're going to do long term, and my wife Tennille, she's set up a business, been running a bit over 6 years now in Townsville. Sporty Kids Australia, it's a physical activity for young ones, which is all about just getting moving, getting active from a young age. All sort of growth development programs and gymnastics, bit of dancing and stuff as well. But so that's what keeps her busy. But then on my side, we invested in a food franchise, quick service food franchise, and it hasn't been that successful. When I say that successful, we just had a lot of challenges. The first time we opened in Townsville, we lost that in the floods in 2019. So that's a challenge. Then that's then rolled into 2020. We expanded into a few more shops. There's sort of 5 of us that bought the group, and we spread from Cairns down through to Brisbane, and then just COVID happened, rents, people weren't working out in the cities. So we've had our challenges, but we're still hanging in there. We're still having a swing. The food, keeping the brand alive. Suki, shout out to Suki restaurants.
I go there I'm not saying this because of you. I go there quite a bit. and I'd never use my Cowboys discount. I always pay full freight.
Oh, thank you, sir. That's because we know how much you're getting paid. it's been heavily reported. You're doing okay.
Mate, I'm that over it.
And everything in the paper is so true. So.
I know.
So,
but I love it. I'm not just saying it because you're an owner. Like, it's tasty. It's beautiful.
It is, and it's something that North Queensland doesn't have. And no disrespect to North Queensland, we're steak and chips and burger and chips kind of people, and sushi. And that's what we do in North Queensland, and everyone's a little bit tentative to try something new. But as you know, you've come from a couple of different towns and lived in a few different areas that have different offerings, and it's been very well received by a lot of people. It's just it's just been challenging the last couple of years with everything that's gone on, not just here in North Queensland, in the state, in Australia, in the world. So we had some big things on the horizon, but now we've taken a few steps back. But like I said, we're trying to stay relevant and move forward.
That's small business, isn't it? Got to pivot, got to move.
Left foot, right foot, short ball, hit a line. That's all I've never known. So
you've done that well over the course of your career. So
so that stuff was easy. So this stuff now, it just felt like setting up for retirement. You think, all right, we've got this cash, let's go and invest, and let's see where we get to. And look, hospitality is not for the faint at heart. And look, I haven't been able to give it my time in the shops and stuff like that. I've tried a little bit, but it's also at a point where what else was I going to do? That was supposed to be a churn in the background, and I was just going to be part of it, be a little bit of a face to start with. But yeah, it's challenging. There's not a person that's been in business that I'll say has breezed through the last few years. So add into that, we'll call it retiring or changing careers. That's a challenge in itself. So look, add into that family pressures, life, finding out where the next dollar's coming from. That's but it's all good. I can't complain.
And you're also doing a bit of work still around the club, mate. I quite often see your rude head around the corridors, popping in, around, speaking to the boys. Tell us a bit about your role at the club and how you've enjoyed, I guess, still being around the club and seeing some of the boys.
Being around the club. As you know, I don't do anything out on the field with you as footy-wise, but I still speak to a lot of the guys about their footy and how that's all going. And my role, day-to-day role, business development manager in the commercial sponsorship team, and it's all about growing the partners that we have and looking for new business, looking for new opportunities to bring people into the Cowboys family, which has been very rewarding, but it's challenging at times, but it's still got a common language. Yes, it's about some dollars and some objectives that companies want to have partnering with the club, but common language is footy, and that's very easy for me to talk about. And I'm still this close to footy, but I'm still a mile away as well. So I'm still on the roller coaster. When you guys lose, I kick stones for a little minute, but I'm not. I won't say I'm not embarrassed to go in public anymore. Like sometimes you have a bad performance, you're like, oh, I can't go for breakfast today. But yeah, understanding what you guys still go through, the pressures in North Queensland, and I think for me and my role too, it also bridges a gap between the players and the commercial or the other side of the building. So everyone comes in, they know where I sit, and boys often come for a yarn, and I often do the same. So I go jump into Toddy's office once a week and talk footy, and same thing with Milk, recruitment, just seeing what's going on. So staying ear to the ground and give my ideas if they're asked, or give my opinions if they're asked. And I know I've got a bit to offer to the game, and I still do some coaching with the QRL in their 17s and 19s pathways. So that's something I will get back to eventually. But for now, it's still about finding myself away from being on the grass. Yeah,
awesome. I think quite often I speak to people now, I guess, who are retired from the game. I had Morgo on last week. I've spoken to a few other guys, and they speak about the transition to the retirement. Almost like a weight dropping off your shoulders almost. How were you when you transitioned to the next phase of your life? Were you prepared? Did you think that you would handle it okay, or did you? Sometimes we hear about players haven't adjusted as well. You've been playing the game for a long time, over 300 games. How was your transition out of the game into that next phase?
Yeah, I don't want to say seamless and make it seem like it's been easy breezy, but there's been some. The challenging part, I think, was the way we set it up, even with this challenges we had with business and whatever. I wanted to do 6 months of zero work, and I lasted 3 weeks. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't go from all day, every day, just having somewhere to be at 7 a.m. This is what you wear. This is what you do. This is what you have to turn up. This is how you have to turn up. And I lasted 3 weeks. I was like, take the kids to school, go for a coffee, catch up with a couple of boys that had retired. I'm like, all right, when do I pick up the kids from school? That was literally what it was like. So lasted 3 weeks, and then that's how I sort of started doing some work for the club, because that was, so my last year, for the listeners there, that it was the first year of COVID, so it was a challenging year. I didn't think by any stretch it was going to be a Kobe farewell tour, but I was really looking forward to our last trips away and that sort of thing. So that sort of got taken off me, which I was a bit shirty about. But
Definitely.
And then in saying that, if COVID hadn't been around, we were going to plan on going to France for a couple of years. So that didn't happen either. So it was about, all right, time to put your big boy pants on and put a button-up shirt on, and then away we go. So, look, it's been good. Being close to the footy helps, but you're right in saying there's a weight off your shoulders. But I think it's just the expectation that comes with it. And look, I'm very much a realist that, like, when you lose, I've been someone that's been able to move on pretty quickly, and I've got a tattoo on the side of my ribs that says "doesn't matter." I've got that from my grandfather. I've been very much that attitude my whole life. There are a lot of things that matter in the world, but look, us losing on the weekend and the crowd giving it to you because you lost, and like, I always was out there, give my best at all times, and that's all you can do. Yep. And if someone thinks different about that, I'm like, well, come and tell me, but I'll argue till the cows come home. So, and I'm very much, I could park it if I needed to, and not everybody can do that. I know that also. So I've been very much been able to separate myself from that through my career. So I've been able to do that since I finished as well.
Did you, just quickly on that, like you mentioned, I love that, because I feel the same way, you know, but I found that as you get older, you get better at that, especially in your career. Like younger, you put so much pressure on yourself trying to make the NRL, trying to cement your position. As you get older, you understand what you need to do to prepare to play games. Did you get better as you got older with that stuff?
Yeah, I did, but I think I had that attitude. It was nearly too much of a laxy attitude. I think that's what slowed me down a little bit at first, because, and once again, it didn't come easy, because I played 18 games in my first season, and I missed 6 games because I broke my finger. So I nearly would have played the full season in my first year of NRL. So, like I said, it didn't come easy because there's a lot of hard work that went into that. But after that, I actually moved to the Titans for, I'll say opportunity. I moved for more money. And then from there, that wasn't great because that was the first couple of years of the Titans. So then I went to Penrith for a new opportunity. But then I struggled a little bit early on because I was a bit more versatile. I wasn't as slow as I ended up, but I played a lot of centre. I just started second row and moved to the centres quite a lot, and I struggled doing that. And because I knew I was competent at it, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be back row. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to really forge my career in that position. So that's how I ended up back at North Queensland, and I was able to do that. So it was, and to go back to your question, it definitely did get better with age and experience, but it's something that I had from the get-go. But what came with age and experience was trying to convince others that was the way as well. So I could see people kicking stones. It's funny, people talk about my relationship with JT a lot. Some coaches used to talk to me about how he's feeling, like, because they're scared to ask him. I'm like, all right, let me play the psychologist here. Let me play the psychologist. I'll be the middleman. How's your mate feeling today? I'm like, you've got his phone number as well, so go and call him. So, but that was my influence on others, and I still, like I said, I still have that influence on some of the young guys at the club now. So, like, I speak to them, whether I'm speaking to them about footy or life or whatever they're talking about. Some of those guys, that was my role at the club, and that was something I didn't take lightly either.
Yeah, beauty. I love that. Let's go into a bit deeper in some of the things you just mentioned. Then, you know, you said you played, I think it was 16 games in your first year for the Cowboys. Then after that, you left to go to the Titans, and you just said for more money, which is in turn more opportunity. Yep. Was this the time when the rat's tail came out?
No, I had the rat's tail here in town. I had the rat's tail. I've still got the rat's tail. I should have brought it in.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, I think it's a dyed blonde rat's tail. I don't know what
I'll get you a photo.
Yeah, we have to get a photo of it. But yeah, you went to the Titans for 2 years, then the Panthers for 2 years, then full circle back to the Cowboys. But just quickly on, you know, I guess your time at the Titans and then into the Panthers, how, you know, you just mentioned you moved to the Titans for more money, more opportunity. Why did you then, you know, move on and go to the Panthers as well?
Moving on from the Titans, it just didn't work out. Like, I remember when I get there, had my first conversation with Cardi. It was on the back of my first my first season in the NRL, and once again, it kind of the talk around how I was playing. Like we were going okay. We won our first 6 games that season.
Was
for
that
the Cowboys.
first? Sorry, was that when you moved to the Titans? Was that like the inaugural
Yes,
year?
yeah. So that's
right.
like I know what the Penguins, the Dolphins, Penguins are written on. Penguins are up on there on the TV. The Dolphins. I know the Dolphins. I've played for the Dolphins, man. Come on, the Penguins. Go the Penguins.
Tom Gilbert's not going to be happy with it.
Stuff, Tommy. He left.
True.
Yeah, so I know what they're going through at the moment. So, like, expectations big. Wayne Bennett, the expectations big, but it's a challenge. I had my first conversation with John Cartwright, and he's like, "You're a go-to second row." I was like, "Man, I'm 20. Like, I don't know if you can say that." Like, and that's why, not suggesting I'm Jeremiah by any stretch of the imagination, but that was like, oh shit, I don't know if I can handle that. But moving to the Gold Coast, it was a cool place. It was, moved down with Tennille. It was the first time we'd really lived together.
Yep.
Didn't really embrace the coast. Being from a small town, I like sort of seeing the same people around that I was used to seeing. But then, we didn't have the success on the field. So then that ultimately goes. So I started on the left edge and I moved to the right edge and I was on the bench. Then Mark Minicello started going really well. So I got bounced a little bit and ended up playing a few games back at Ipswich, actually, which I really enjoyed. Played with a couple of my mates that I grew up playing footy with. Kevy Walters was a coach at the time. So very laxy-daisy. Like, if anyone's seen Kevy coach, he can talk a bit and he tries to motivate you, but his the way he actually technically broke a game down, there was not much there. So it was all about motivation. Go out there, have fun. And so I really started enjoying footy again. And then sort of Cardi goes, the opportunity's not here now, so move along. And I actually nearly came back to the Cowboys straight away. But I was like, that's a bit comfortable. That's going back to suck your dummy or going back to your mum's boob or something. How PG are we here? We're not PG at all, are we?
We're pretty PG.
Are we M15 plus? So going back home to mummy's house. That's what it would have felt like coming straight home.
So effectively you chose the harder decision.
Yeah. And at first too, being proud Queensland, I didn't really want to move to New South Wales. I was actually going to come back. Yeah, so I was going to come back for less money. So I was really like swallowing my pride coming back to the Cowboys. But then an opportunity came to go to Panthers. Matt Elliott tried a couple of times to get me to the Raiders earlier in the piece. So then he's moved on to the Panthers. So moved down there. And one of my favourite players at the time, Frankie Pritchard, was down there. And absolute weapon on the field. So I was like, oh, shit, I'll move down there. But then literally first experience in Penrith, I went to the shopping centre and I bumped my trolley into someone and I turned around and said sorry, and it was like I was going to get stabbed. I was like, okay, it's not as pleasant as North Queensland or somewhere where everyone's a bit more friendly to each other. And as you know, you've been up here now long enough to know how friendly people can be. It's all about you say good day to everyone that walks past. And so sometimes for people that haven't experienced that, you're like, well, what's he saying hello to me for? So, moving down there was a bit eye-opener, but great bunch of guys. I loved the place. Never wanted to leave. Yeah. Once I was there, it's like Townsville, an hour out of Sydney. So 7,000 restaurants, 20 beaches. Like everything is at your fingertips. And like even myself and Tennille, 11 o'clock at night, sometimes jump in the car and drive into the Rocks and have pancakes on the Rocks. It's just you could do that. Where look, I love Townsville, but just geographically challenged up here. Just with we'd go to shows, musicals, plays, concerts. Where now it's like. We're getting better up here. Yeah. Lots more is coming to North Queensland, but now it's like get on a plane, book a hotel, get a hire car. So that was all the things that we thought we'd miss coming back. And I won't lie, our first 12 months back, that's what we really did miss. So, footy-wise, funny story, like I was saying before about playing centre a little bit too much. I was filling in for the centres, and we're doing left on rights and I was marking Michael Jennings. And for people that knew Michael Jennings in his prime, I literally turned around to Matt Elliott, put my hands on my head, and I said, what am I meant to do? I said, this is why I don't want to play centre. So anyway, and then opportunity came back to come back to North Queensland. I made the decision 3 o'clock in the afternoon because the club told me they were going to invest heavily in Frankie Pritchard again. And I sent the email 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 9 o'clock that night, Frankie Pritchard sent a text out, said, I'm going to the Dogs for 4 years. So went in the next day, conversations happened, said, have you signed? I said, I've agreed by email. Have a think about it. We want you. We'll look after you. And by then I was like, man, I've already checked out. I've sent the email. I'm ready to go back to North Queensland, and ended up being a great move.
Wow. Yeah. Geez, this is the things I didn't know that. Obviously, I knew Frankie was there at a similar time to yourself. But How were the emotions once you made that decision to be like, look, I'm coming back home. The Cowboys, probably the team you always wanted to play for, I assume, mate, potentially.
Yeah.
You come back and play, I think your first year back was 2011. So 9 more years back at the Cowboys. How was the transition moving, you and the missus moving back up here?
Look, at first, yes, we made the decision to come home, but it wasn't. It was more based on the footy, and like I said, I didn't want to leave Penrith. Penrith was great town, great bunch of guys. Like, I loved it, like proper loved it. And to accept that we were moving away from somewhere we really loved again, was tough. And then I won't say struggled when we first came back, but it was an adjustment. It took a long time to adjust. And sort of we came back, like I said, Tennille had established herself down in Penrith as a PT at a gym. She had lots of work, corporate work as well. So to move back and then start all that over again, although Tennille, she's pretty well known around North Queensland for her dancing ability when she was younger, and so people still remember that. She teaches around town and whatnot now, and still very good at what she does. So it's funny to see. Funny is not the right word. It's cool to see someone in another field that has succeeded and still be recognised for what their achievements were. So that still happens around North Queensland. But for me, coming back to North Queensland, it was coming back to play on an edge, be an edge back rower. That's what I was here to do, and it ended up. Yes, we had a lot of success, sort of a little bit further down the track, but the first couple of years, it was you could see it building. There was a big turnover of guys. I think there was about a dozen of us that turned up all day one 2011 preseason. So it was a big change.
Yeah, beauty. Let's now, I guess, to go a bit more deeper into your Cowboys career. And you just mentioned before about coaches asking you how JT was, the big dog. How was your relationship with JT? You guys played a lot of time together, especially on the same edge together, defending, attacking. You ran some great line, were known for some of your great lines, getting some great short balls off Jono. How was your guys' relationship?
Well, we actually, wind it back when I came to the Cowboys here the first time, we signed at the same time, and he's only 2 years older than me, so I moved up as a 19-year-old, he came up as a 21-year-old, so became pretty good friends straight away. May or may not have been a couple of rat bags when we were younger, but so obviously stayed in touch. I've caught up a lot. Our wives, good friends as well, known each other a long time. So even when we were away, it was like still chatted, still caught up in off seasons. Would stay like when we'd come up to Townsend for an off season, would stay at their place. So always kept in touch. He was the first person I called when I was coming back or about coming back, and so Neil Henry was a coach at the time, so he was sort of working out how the team was sort of shaping up. Then coming back, I actually came back to play on the right edge, and Scott Bolton tore his calf in Alice Springs, I think. No, I did my knee in my first trial. Antonio Winterstein broke his jaw in the first trial. We all went down, and then Scott Bolton tore his calf. He was on the left edge. He was close to Origin at that time as well, and he tore his calf first game, I think, against the Broncos. And then because I started on the bench because I did my knee, and then I moved over to the left and then just never left. So, and Bolts put on a couple of kilos and moved into the middle. His ass got a bit bigger. So, like I said, always been good friends. Our relationship on the field was just a byproduct of off the field.
Yep.
So, yes, we kind of understood what each other did, and still joke now, there's no money in tackling. Got to be a halfback or a 5'8".
There isn't. I say that
it's in the paper, mate. It's in the paper. It's true.
I say this to Robbo, actually, just quickly. I talked to Robbo, and he's like, man, the hookers are obviously always at the top of the most tackles.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, Robbo comes up to me with like a game to go, and he's like, man, I just saw my stat. I've just made over 1,000 tackles. And I was like, man, that's not a good stat. You don't want to be known as the top tackler in the competition.
But you can take it now because hookers get paid these days. Hookers never used to get paid. It's not one you take lightly. I look at, for people who are listening, Dallas Johnson. I look at Dallas Johnson. His ears are all chewed like a couple of dog toys. It's like his head's all banged up, and he just tackled. He was Michael Luck. Look at his head, honestly. And I'm the same. My body's not great, but look, I wouldn't change any of it. Like I said, a joke, there's no money in tackling, and then Jono would joke that I did all his tackling for him. So, That could be true as well, but his shoulders are shot as well. So he's out of all the halfbacks I've played with the most courageous by far. Put his head where some people wouldn't put their shoe. But yeah, also most competitive. One of the most competitive they've played with as well. So all the stuff that all the stuff you saw on the field, nothing really happened by fluke. Practiced all the lines, practiced some of the kicks. Understood that a lot of the attention was mostly on him, and there'd be penalties all day, every day if he played in today's game, just with how deep he took it into the line. He wasn't afraid of getting hurt, and you can't do that these days. So the game's changed a little bit. So, but yeah, a lot of the stuff was practiced and ended up changing a lot of things. We wouldn't talk too much on the field. Sometimes I'd clap because people would realise what we were saying. So just little things, subtle things like that. But yeah, very much instinctive with how we played. Yeah,
that was going to be my next question, to be honest. Understanding the game, and you just mentioned the time you spent together off the field, become good mates, which I think is paramount to team success. Spending time off the field, becoming friends off the field, which you guys had, you just mentioned, and then the little subtleties on the field. So you just mentioned some hand signals and things like that. Is that something you developed over the course of your career, playing time? Because, sometimes things, it might just be like a look, like you might just say or like the kick's on, and it's just like, man, you just know that, or you tap your leg or your head. Those, tell me a bit more detail about that.
It was a lot of time, as you know, as a back row, our back rows, the way we play at the moment, they're a bit more fancy, when I say fancy footwork, or a little bit freer with
pretty boys.
They don't make them like they used to, big long wiry things anyway. We've got Helam that looks like he's a monster. He looks like the Hulk. They don't make him like that, or this body didn't grow anyway. I didn't love the gym. A lot of it might have just been a look, or as a lead runner, as soon as I'd see out of the corner of my eye that a centre has shot out the back and tried to cut down. Well, Lachlan Coote at the back, when he was at the back, he was very, very good at what he did. As soon as I'd see that, I'd change my line. So it wasn't about sticking to the plays that we knew. It was about adjusting on the fly. And one of the plays that we had a lot of success with was just a simple wrap around it. It kind of, look, I don't want to say we started it again, but it was a big part of it. You didn't see it. You really didn't see it until because it was just him actually passing it to me a step early. So just before he'd get hit, he'd pass it to me. He'd wrap around. I'd give it back to him, but I'd take out a defender, so it automatically create either a 4-on-2 or 4-on-3. And 4-on-2, 4v2 with JT and Lachlan Coote with potentially the ball in their hands, we win 95% of the time. And a lot of our tries down that edge, that was rehearsed, that training. And it's funny, you speak to Morgo about the year we won the comp. They had the best defensive edge in the comp, and then our left side, we scored all the tries. So they stopped them all, and then we scored them all because everyone can pass to the left a bit easier than they can pass to the right. Yep. So it was it was all practiced, but then to go back to, like you said, some of the things just instinctive play. I don't know if I've made this up in my head or not, or whether it's legit. I grew up in a small country town, played with a lot of Aboriginal boys that play very instinctive footy. So my best mate, Aboriginal lad I played footy with him right through rep footy, and watching him play, we didn't practice. It wasn't practiced. Nothing was rehearsed. Everything was off the cuff, and you just learnt how to react quickly.
Yeah,
so,
beauty.
So that probably plays a big part in my relationship with him as well.
Yep, awesome. Like I said, I had Morgan on last week, and I spoke to him. And when I look at the Cowboys, most successful years, obviously when you won the comp, 17 as well. The style of play that you guys had, where Jono was effectively on the ball, Morgo would sit himself on the right, Cootie would sit himself on the left. I guess it's similar to the way that the Panthers play now. Yeah. Cleary sits on the ball, Jerome Luai sits on the left side of the field, Dylan Edwards sits on the right. Rarely do you see those guys all swapping. Nathan Cleary sort of controls everything. And Jono, I guess, did the same for you guys. Tell me a bit more about, how that, I guess, came about. Was it Jono, I guess, being the main man, him controlling the team and then trying to bring out the strengths of everyone else?
I'll actually, God rest his soul, Paul Green.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Very, very clever man with how he saw the game. Yes, JT had his own ideas and influences on it, but the way Greeny, our strengths at the time, our first 3 carries off the kickoff were Matt Scott, Jason Tamalolo, Jimmy Tamia.
Yeah.
Like, good luck, honestly.
Jeez.
So, and it was funny in a couple of games in those years that we had this sort of band together. We would take the penalty two when we're down by 8 or down by 6 because we knew our best set of 6 was our kickoff return. Like after those 3 carries, we'd be on halfway. So we would take a kickoff over some other set starts. Like, and we're starting on our try line because we know, like I said, we've got Matt Scott, Australian front rower, Jason Tamalolo at the time, number 13 for the Kiwis, and then Jimmy Tamia, number 10 for the big Aussie Jim. So add into that, then I might have play number 4, or if we go one way, or Ethan Lowe, or you'd sing it to Morgo the other way. So there was our advantage was those first 3 plays. And getting it to Morgo or Cootie on play 3 or play 4 was something that, like I said, was one of our strengths.
Before we get into 2015, I want to know what was the thing that you loved most about playing in the NRL?
Winning's one part of it. And it's funny because my brother grew up, he wanted, come hell or high water, wanted to be in the NRL. So it was funny, it was nearly like growing up, I was like, I gave that one to him. But then once I got the chance to do it myself, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Or once I got the chance I played at younger grade or under 18s, Colts, and then Q Cup at Redcliffe, and then got the chance to come to the Cowboys. But the best thing is spending time with the boys. It's one thing at training. Used to joke to Morgo, the best time of the week was after a win and having a beer in the sheds. Like there's zero.
That's exactly what Morgo said.
It's funny. You joked about it, and then we had used to feel sorry for the guy. We recruited, it might have been 2017. I'm not sure what year it was, 2018. I'm not sure, at the club. And we got a high-performance guy named Michael Dobbins from the AFL, came over from Freo, I think he was at. And he was very much about recovery. And, like, we used to bang heads all the time because we'd finish a game, literally coach would finish speaking, he'd walk around and hand you the protein or the chocolate milk. And we were like, Dobbo, with all due respect, F off. Mate. Well, like, this is the best time of the week. We're not recovering. We're having a beer. And that was something that, and not to glorify drinking or however you want to say it. Just having a beer with your mates.
Yeah.
It's like
time and place.
There's time and a place. This is my time, and I get there's obligations that you got to get out of the way. Captain's got to go have their yarn and do whatever, and like there's not a care in the world. That little 20 minutes after a game, if you've had a win, sitting there having a laugh, talking about, like, you don't talk about stuff that happened through the week. You talk about some good stuff that happened on the field. If you lose, no one wants to talk to each other. So it's funny. It's like a morgue after a loss.
Yeah, I know. It's the complete opposite, isn't it?
So if you it's the best time of the week. So, and like just seeing your mates all the time, and as you know, whether it's playing golf, whether you're on the field, off the field, talking shit, running around the change room nude. Yep. There's not so much nudity anymore, but those are the times that you miss, and it's just, when I say shit talk, it's like all the banter that you have, and that's the stuff why guys in the NRL that finish and can't find themselves quickly because they miss that interaction. And really struggle to find that outside of footy. And I've been lucky enough that and you've been at a few clubs, you don't speak to 1 to 30 from each club still. Like there's only a handful that you keep in contact with, and I'm the same. So it's you keep your real mates close, and like you still know the guys and still go for a beer with them, but it's just not something that you do is keep in contact with everybody. You pick and choose, just like school. Like there's only a handful of people that you're still probably in contact with. So it's that's the stuff that you miss. But the best part about it is just being with your mates, being able to go away, have a win, go for a coffee, talk shit. Be roomies. You end up. It's like you're 14 again, having a sleepover when you're rooming away. It's just you're talking utter crap, but that's the stuff that you miss.
Yeah, I just can't agree more with you on that. Let's go into 2015 now. And when I spoke to Morgo on the pod, he mentioned the slow start you guys had in 2015, and then he also mentioned, I think it might have been the captains. Getting the boys together for a bit of a beer, and you mentioned, how good that time is together. Talk to me a bit about the start of 2015 and how you progressed and moved into the swing of things in that season.
Yeah. Well, it took us it's funny, Greenie came in 2014 and we won the Nines. They're like, oh, what a genius. Like, it was first year in Nines. We only won one game, honestly. We got in on 4 and against in the Nines, made it to the finals. You're like, oh, well, anything can happen now. We won 2 more games, then beat Brisbane in the grand final. So everyone expected success out of Greenie straight away. And we didn't have that throughout the year. So we made it to the finals, but we didn't make it to the big one. So 2015, start of the year, lots of expectation, and then I think we lost the first 3, and our 4th game was the double field goal by JT against Melbourne.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, the week before, I think we lost to Brisbane in Brisbane, and we all flew home, and we used Jono's daughter's first birthday or second birthday as an excuse to go have a beer. I think it was something about one of Jono's daughters. Anyway, near everyone turned up. It started with 6, 8.
Yep.
It grew. And it was enormous. It was just fun. Everything about it was fun. You wouldn't think, like, if you went out now after 3 losses and you boys drank, you guys would get dragged over the coals. But it was great for us. And we turned up that Monday after, and that led into that Melbourne game. And you could just see something was changing. It still didn't look quite right on the field.
Yep.
It was a little bit clunky, but we did enough to get the win. But that year, I think everyone just became comfortable with the way Greenie wanted to play, and we kept the majority of the team together that year.
Yep.
And everyone was on the field healthy, or the majority of the year. And like I said, that the role that we got on, well, we didn't do anything that wasn't practiced, and yeah, having Thumper, Jimmy, Jace coming off the back fence, I felt sorry for some teams, honestly. And we went on, I think we won 10, 11, 12, I'm not sure, in a row.
Yep.
That year. And it became challenging because teams were coming for us because everyone wanted to beat the streak.
They brought their best game.
Everyone wanted to beat the streak. We're like, oh, shit. And there were some games we should not have won, but we had confidence in the way that we played that no matter who had the ball, they would come up with something. But it wasn't panic footy. Like, we could be down by 12 with 5 minutes to go, and you could literally not a panic, not a heart rate over. It'd be over 100 for obvious reasons, but it's not elevated. You're not making rash decisions because you're down by 12 with 5 to go. Like, you go, all right, get our GTK set on, get our kickoff set on.
Yep.
We're finishing this part of the field. We'll bomb it here. We'll contest. If they drop it, we D up. We have our calls for what we do, and there just wasn't panic stations with how we played.
I love that. And you mentioned the fact that you guys had the same team, like consistency with team and players and selection, which I think is paramount.
Yeah, that's how
for a
your team had success. 2022.
100%, definitely. You know, the coach to have the luxury to put the same team on there. Guys understanding their roles, you know, knowing whether it's you just said the kickoff sets or whatever it was, absolute paramount. Talk to me now about the semi-finals, you know, how you guys, you know, felt heading into the semis and, you know, how I guess the senior players, which, you know, you were one of, how you guys sort of, you know, got the team to focus at the right time of the year.
Yeah. Losing to the Broncos, no, we never like losing to the Broncos, but losing to the Broncos in week 1 was like, we hate the Broncos, honestly. Look, I like some people that are there and were there at the time, but as Cowboys, we hate the Broncos. And I unashamedly say that now still, like even doing the radio when the people want to talk Broncos, I'm, nah, shut up. No Broncos today. It just doesn't work. But losing to the Broncos, that was big. And we then we played the Sharks here at home. I think we won
Pumped them
40-0, something like that.
Yep.
And it was on the back of, we're in the finals, get your shit together, and playing at home, as you know now, it was the old stadium then, but playing against the Sharks at home, we were on. Once again, Matt Scott coming off the back fence, and everything was clicking that game. And I still remember Luke Lewis, loved the lad, but played with him at Panthers, and he was like, at the time, there was a bit of rivalry between the Sharks and the Cowboys, and it was a bit of argy-bargy, and I was like, I used to like you, Groover. Now you've gone to the Sharks. You've turned into an absolute an idiot. I said, you're an absolute... And I
He would have loved that.
I pizzled him at the scrum. It helped that we were up by 24.
Yeah,
so
yeah, definitely.
I was like, just pack the scrum, you dickhead. Don't say anything. Yeah, like we were just on. Like if you saw replays of that game, I don't know. I have never seen it, but it's probably 95% completions. Like we were doing attacking kicks the majority of the game.
Yep.
Like it could have been much more than 40. Like I just remember that game just being on from the get-go.
Yeah, beauty. And then you beat the following week. You beat the Storm in Melbourne to get into the grand final. I want to now talk about that. That's obviously that is just a huge thing in itself.
To beat Melbourne in Melbourne is massive at that time too.
Yep.
Like no, I want to say no one gave us a chance. We're in a prelim, so 2-horse race obviously, but yeah, like once again we were on, and it wasn't a massive scoring game, but if I remember correctly, Juzzy scored a couple of tries. On the right edge, which once again we'll go back to our left edge used to score the tries and not the other way around. So and Justin O'Neill, one off a kick and one off a ball off Morgo, I think. Hope I'm right. I hope it's that game. Please don't fact check me. But yeah, beating Melbourne in Melbourne, massive achievement, and then we were like, holy shit, we're in a grand final. So it was it was nearly like winning a grand final, beating Melbourne in a prelim. So we're like, all right, get your minds back where they've got to be, and let's go to the big one.
Yeah, wow. And then, you know, you beat Melbourne in Melbourne, so you're in the grand final now, and who else are you playing other than the arch rivals again, Brisbane? Yeah. You guys faced up again, which I remember at the time was, you know, billed as one of the biggest grand finals of all time. These two arch enemies that don't like each other, the Battle of Queensland, I guess, at the time. You know, how was the game? And then tell me about the last minute of regulation time, because I spoke to Morgo about it, and he told me, you know, his thoughts on what he saw, and you know, when the ball went to Jono as it would on the last play, and then Morgo's thought to himself, I need to get behind the ball. So you see him backtrack to get a chance to get the ball. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, being the Broncos, it's funny because how much I say I don't like the Broncos. I like some of the people there, but just as a club, like just around that time, still a bit of arrogance. Like the Cowboys, come to the Cowboys, you're like, everyone hates us, no one thinks about us. We're in North Queensland.
Yeah.
We're like
out of the way a bit.
We're throwing the toys out of the cot because no one wants to think about us or talk about us. They're not even writing about us. We're not in the paper. We're like, shit, that's a good thing. But yeah, so being the Broncos, like, all right, this is a big chance here. And then getting down there, getting to Sydney, two Queensland teams were like, shit, we need to bring in a crowd here. But anyway, end up being sold out of Forex Gold, which is just another good story to itself. The start happened. Corey Oates scored a long range try off an offload, Adam Blair offload, I think, off. What have been the second? It was early. Anyway, it was early, and he scored a long range try. I'm like, oh, come on, boys, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Justin O'Neill scored off a set play off a scrum. Jake Granville bounces out, and for people that have watched it, like, what's Justin O'Neill doing in the scrum? But he packed in the second row, just knowing that he's the quickest in our team off the mark.
Yep.
He jumps out, passes straight back to him, scores. Jimmy Tamea scored off Jake Granville as well. But just things were clicking for them, clicking for the Broncos more. And just fast forward through the game, 15 minutes to go, they were still up by 4 points. Might have been longer, 20 minutes to go. And they started playing very negative. And I was like, we are in this. I don't know why I felt that, but they were trying to kick it for touch with 20 minutes to go, trying to wind the clock down. Like, man, this is a long time. You wind the clock down with 3 minutes to go, not 20 minutes to go.
Yep.
It was very negative with the way they were playing. And, like the big one happened with JT, obviously, but people have sort of missed some things. Like, people do miss some things. Felty knocking the ball out like a bit of a one-on-one rake, getting the ball back it wasn't Ben Hunt. Someone on a kick return, they ended up with the ball, and then Felty knocked the ball out. So getting that ball back. Kane Linnett actually, a gap the size of the Bruce Highway, he dropped the ball. Like, Jono threw it, hit him on the chest, and it ended up going dead. So they got a 20-metre tap. This was about 20 minutes to go. So this would have put us back in front, kick next to the post. Go to the final play, and like, I was out on the left. I thought we were just coming left, and then it's still very slow motion. Like, I've seen highlights. I still haven't watched the whole game, but
yeah.
when Adam Blair hits Jono and he sort of spins out of it and then runs back across the field. And you do see Morgo run backwards. And talking about Morgo, the day before or whatever it was, if people know Morgo's only got paws like a little possum. He said he's only got small little hands. So to hold the ball in one hand, it's an achievement in itself.
Yep.
But we actually spoke about saying, because he's very much a left-handed carry, so having it in his right hand is something we'd actually spoke about leading into the game, saying you never have it in your right hand. And then the history is in the proof's in the pudding, or history is there is written now. But yeah, getting on the outside of Jack Reed, I think it was, and then Oatsy just turned in and he flicked it to Felty, and Darius put his hand on his heads before Felty even put the ball down. So
wasn't that a scene? Wasn't it? He was like, I remember seeing him fall to his knees.
Yeah.
It's like just absolute devastation right there.
And if Felty could have nearly held the ball then and then ran around 10 metres, like, because Darius didn't even do anything. He was like, "Oh, hold the ball, man." Slow it down. Looks like Felty's losing grip anyway. So if you really slow it down, I was like, well, anyway. So that happened. Then Alf's running up down the sideline trying to squirt the ball, squirt Jono, and then Jono tries to move in a little bit too far, and then you see the ref pull him back out 30 centimetres, and he kicks it. And if on a high shot, I was actually part of the group, and it looks like the ball's coming back as we've all seen it. It starts coming. And I ran off from the group, like, ready to celebrate. And I don't know why, I don't know where I was running to, but ran off the field, and then it hit the post, and then I had to quickly loop back, and everyone got around and said, we're all good. Like, tried to get it out of John's head and just saying, like, it's not on you, we're good. And Felty, those kickoffs, he'd been doing a lot of practice on them, and they'd been terrorising people all year. So to see how it ended up folding, and Ben Hunt, legend dude as well.
Yep, definitely.
Still a mate of mine, and to see how it ended. Look, I'm glad it ended that way for us, but he's copped a lot of heat over it for a long time, and yes, it's that one play in that moment that is highlighted, but lots led to that. Like I said, they played negative from 20 minutes out. It wasn't just that one play.
Yep. Just quickly, Robbie, did we get a fact check on that? Those tries, was it?
Go again. What were they again?
Was
I got them because you got two.
Justin O'Neill, was it?
Two.
Justin O'Neill off the scrum.
You get two as well
When?
in that game.
In Melbourne?
Yeah.
No, I only got one, I think.
I've got the wrong game.
No, I did score. So 2015 prelim.
No.
Justin O'Neill scored down the right. I think it was 14. And then the other tries I was talking about was the grand final.
All right. Anyway, we'll leave Robbie.
Move on, because I must have been looking at the wrong mark. Because I reckon, it's like he got two, Morgan got two, and I reckon you got two.
Oh, fuck, that could
For
be a
that
chance.
game.
Well, maybe.
Jazzy, yes. Oh, that's why I brought up that game. I scored two as well. I think actually I scored one right on half time. Like, a kick happened, bounced across the field, and I did a big spin out, slammed the ball down right next to the post, next to the corner post.
Doesn't say that here, but I'll have a look. I'll double check,
That's
see if
fact
you
check.
did do that
Fact check.
that spin
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
2-2 and 2. So what was the final score? Because we dushed them, I know that.
Yeah,
We played well.
32-12.
32-12.
There you go.
Melbourne in Melbourne. Yeah, we
Melbourne,
dushed them.
Bloody, that is a dushing. All right, so, let's go to the you mentioned the kickoff, and then, Jono gets the ball in position, hits the field goal, drops the ball on the side. You guys come in.
If you listen to him, he'll tell you he turned his foot because he knew the ball was at a different angle.
He probably
You did not.
I spoke to Morgo as well. It's like he didn't drop the ball like that. Like it's like that, and it's like unbelievably hard to do. You guys have just won NRL Premiership. Like, tell me about the feeling. The sacrifices you've made over the course of your whole life to get to that position, that point. How were the emotions straight after the win?
Yeah, massive. Headbutting JT, splitting his forehead. That was a pretty funny part to it. It was big. It was instantly weight off the shoulders. It was like, had my wife, had my firstborn in the crowd,
Wow.
had family, had my brother flown back in from the state or France or somewhere, wherever he was living at the time. One cool photo that I've actually got from that is me, my old boy, and my brother with the premiership trophy, which is a pretty cool photo. Yep. Another cool one I've got is me and my firstborn at the time with the ring, just me and Archie, which is a cool one as well. And we've got another one with Tennille as well the next morning. But right there on the field, it was like, bullshit. This is what it's all for. And like it'd been close, like been in a couple of prelims. Even when I was at Penrith, we finished second and people thought we were going to do good things and we got bounced first 2 weeks of the finals. So we're like, oh, well, better luck next year, kid. But yeah, it's funny how you say it's all worth it. When you're in the backyard, as a kid, you kick from the sideline or you pretend you kick from the sideline to win the grand final.
Yep.
Round Origin time, you pretend you're playing Origin, but the grand final is the big one. Like there's a whole lot goes into that. Origin, not diminishing Origin at all, but Origin camps, the whole kit and caboodle's over in 2 months, where a lot goes into pre-season, like a lot of time and effort. Yes, it's on the field, a lot of it off the field, building camaraderie, becoming mates, getting to know each other off the field. So that's a big part. That's how you build trust on the field, is all from the stuff off the field.
Yep.
But yeah, in that moment, that was cool. And to Yahoo, carry on in the sheds, to party and have drinks. Just like I said before about that 20 minutes after a win, that 20 minutes that just turned into a whole lot
2
longer.
hours. Yes.
that was 2 hours in the sheds. No one wanted to have a shower. No one wanted to leave that moment. And it's funny now, it's become a thing. You see everyone win and they leave their jersey and shorts and boots on. I think Dylan Napper might have started that after the Roosters won.
Definitely.
They saw him downtown eastern suburbs walking around in his boots the next
funny,
day.
Yeah.
But now it's become a thing where ours is literally, they were like, come on, man, our bus is going to leave soon because we're going to get locked out of stadium, or ANZ Stadium, whatever it was at the time. But that was a cool time, very cool time. And being from up here in North Queensland, you saw the emotion that the region feels when the team's going well.
Yep.
Like our parade to the airport to go to the grand final was off its head, and then landing, there was 10. I don't know how the flights. They might have had to delay flights for the rest of the day. There was 10,000 people or 5,000 people at the airport. Drive out to 1-300 Smiles, and there's 15,000 people on the grass. So
Jeez.
we were hung over. It was, mate. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, mate, you know, I just want to finish it up here with a few more questions, and then we'll wrap things up. Obviously, 2015 was a hugely successful year. You know, you had another really successful year in 2017, which we won't go into too much, but. You know, I want to know from you, like, what advice would you give to younger kids, you know, trying to make it in the NRL? Say that if you had to tell your 14-year-old self where you're like, just got to 14, you might have made your first rep team, and you're like, you know, there's a chance for you if you want it to make the NRL. What advice would you give to that younger kid or your younger self?
Yeah, and there's a few layers to that. Like, it's like, if you love it, like, have a crack. Like, when I grew up, I loved riding motorbikes, so I had a crack. And to my body, to my body's detriment, I was the first one to try that jump that no one would try. I was the first one to try that. I was the first one to try that hill climb that no one would try. Like, if you love it, have a crack. Yeah. And it's funny. Like I said at the start of the show, I do some stuff with the QRL 17s and 19s, and one of the things I said to them, I said, yes, footy's important, but there's much more out there than rugby league. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I don't want to diminish rugby league because it's given me a whole lot and still continues to do so. But to speak to a 16-year-old who thinks that the game that they've got to play on the weekend with a busted shoulder to try and get into the rep team is the most important to them at that moment, it's the most important game. But in front of some of the coaching staff, I said, this game that you're about to play, yes, it's important, but it's not the most important thing in the world. There's much more out there. And I felt some eyes look at me like, shit, that's not what you're supposed to tell these kids. I'm like, well, that's the truth.
Yeah, yep.
I've seen some kids turn themselves inside out and back to front and continue to do so because they don't want to miss this game because they might get picked in the rep team, which will get them into the top league, where that's not sustainable for them. Because if they can, like, the bodies at 17, they can't handle what the body did at 35 when I was still playing. Yep. So to them right then and there, that's important. But the first grade coach that picks them up in 3 years' time because they've done well, they're go, geez, you were tough when you were 16, kid. Yeah. I saw you play when you were 16. So right in your moment, there's a lot goes into it. Like, stuff doesn't happen. Yes, there is luck to it because your body has to hold together. But in those moments, it's really challenging for those kids to think this is the one that's going to make or break me. So they put everything so much into it, but it's a bigger picture. And there's, like, I love footy, love my family, love playing golf, love my mates, but I I was very the way I could sort of compartmentalise that footy's footy, and I've seen you do it. I've seen you really be big on it. But it's if you love it, enjoy it.
Yep.
If you love and enjoy it, have a crack. And like the rewards, and they're up here. But if I didn't get to take this path, I could play Q Cup and I could still enjoy those wins, enjoy that 20 minutes after the game. And so footy, once again, giving me a lot at the highest level, but it's still footy. It's about being with your mates, about having fun, and once again, if you enjoy it, have a crack.
I love that. All right, lastly, mate, last question is, you've walked in here like a bloody penguin waddling around. Mate, how is the body? And tell the people, like, you've had a double hip.
I'll call it. It's resurfacing.
So double hip. So the game that just keeps on giving. NRL.
It keeps on giving.
How is the body?
Besides that, good. So for those that had followed, I dislocated my hip in 2014. So that was the start of the end for the hip. Sort of just when it clicks out, when it popped out the back.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. It didn't hurt doing. I didn't know what happened really. But so just took a big chunk of cartilage off and. Sort of off the back of the hip as well, off back of the pelvis, and once it goes back in, there was basically nothing there. So by the time, played another 7 years, so 14, 7 years. So I only missed 10 weeks. So, which at the time was like, shit, I need to get back because we've got a good team. So came back and played, and like I'm glad I did because we had some success back into 14 and then obviously into 15. But then that was sort of, it was just wearing out quickly. And see people even before I walk now like a penguin with the way that I'm trying to get used to the new hips. Only 4 weeks or 4.5 weeks off the surgery, so getting used to it. Basically, just took out all the crap, put in a chrome cap and a new cup into my pelvis, and it's not something that people my age often have unless they've had some, when I say trauma, or they've had some development issues growing up. It's when I was cruising around in the hospital down in Brizzy doing my sort of getting to learn how to walk on the walker, then the crutches, everyone that had the same operation, no one else had the double, that everyone else had singles, and I was like, competitive me's in there, like racing this 65-year-old lady. She's 30 years older than me, and I'm just shimmying past her thinking, yes, I've still got it. But yeah, it's challenging at the moment. But outside of that, like I still wouldn't change it. Like this is... I hope these last forever. I'm not sure if they do. They've given me 15 to 20 years. I could still give it 6 months and I won't say I'll be running marathons, but I'll be out there on the field teaching back rows how to run lines if they wanted it. But not so much our boys, but I'm saying like with the coaching and stuff. So I'd be able to do that again.
Yeah, awesome.
Where I really got it done because to get up and down off the ground with my boys is a challenge. I'd have to put a pillow under one hip and I'd sit down and so quality of life is what I'm looking for now. And like the kids like to play board games, and to get up and down off the ground, that's a challenge. So now, not right now, I can't get up and down too often. I need you to help me out of the chair when I leave. But it's still wouldn't change it. Like fingers are crap. Yeah, got some funny feelings down my arms. Head knocks didn't really have too many throughout my career, which a lot of people are worried about now, and so that's not even on my radar. So it's like all the contact that I have. One of these days I'll get a bit more motivation and get back in the gym, but I've done a lot of lifting over the years, and if I started to look like Helam, I'd probably get in there, but at the moment the body doesn't change like it used to, or doesn't change at all. So I feel good. Once the hips, like I said, once the hips are firing on all cylinders, I'm good to go. Yeah, beauty. Well, there you go. Absolute warrior, mate. Over 300 NRL games. Body's a bit banged up now, but, mate. A little bit banged up, but I'm good.
Phenomenal career, mate. I really, you're highly sought after on the podcast front at the moment, mate. So I really do appreciate you coming on and having a bit of a yarn to us.
Who do I invoice? Who's the sponsors of the show?
Who do I invoice? Invoice the Cowboys.
Oh, jeez.
No,
invoice Chad Townsend.
Invoice me.
I'll come to
Suki.
All right, that's you're done. You got to go. Yeah, you're sweet. Thanks for having me. No, I appreciate it. I enjoyed talking. Through the career, and once you're done and dusted, you'll get a chance to think about it and look back on yours, and you should be real proud of where you're at too. Beauty, mate. Appreciate your time. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you do subscribe, like, comment, whatever you do. We really, really appreciate you checking it out. So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Let's go.